Hello, so we have a huge update coming to WarTales, and it's going to be a very good one that will change basically the end game, the way you approach the content, but also a lot of the activities and some of the combat choices. So combat will not feel as a carbon copy as any other combat, because after 50 hours all of the combat is the same. You don't modify our tactics at all. Now you'll modify them a little bit. And also some people were disappointed with the endgame activities, because all you have to do in the endgame is just feed your troops, because you don't really unlock anything else. So the pathway system was missing some progression and some of the last skills or traits or perks. So they fixed that. But again, some people will not like it because this will be messing around with your save files. You might have some bugs, you might have some problems. You might not want to restart your game. The new path features might annoy some people who didn't like certain activities like, you know, the crime system or trading. So let's get into it. As you can see, this is the roadmap and this is the full short version of the update. New path features, extreme difficulty, interactive combat and camp features, balancing and more fixes. So some people might have all of their builds basically nerfed or their favorite weapons nerfed, so that will not be so pleasant for people who don't want to get the update. But trust me, it will be very good. After that we'll get a new update, which will have a new class, new foes. I'm really curious about the new enemies, because right now we have a lot of enemies, but they're more or less the same. So we'll break down this into the paths and endings, the camp and troop management, also the combat, so they'll get much shorter. So I wanted to do a bigger video with edits and stuff and show you in the game, but to be honest, it's not going to be as impactful because some things are not really well explained. So we'll just have to wait for the full update to be released and then we'll talk more about it. I will do another video in game and we'll have fun. Well, at least I will. Now, what do they mean by the new path and endings? Well, they want to modify the game so in the end game you have new content. So the more you advance in the pathways, the more activities you will unlock. So there will be special activities for each pathway. For example, at level 8, for Power and Glory, you will gain the Ordeal of Legends. For trade, it's the trade routes. The crime and chaos will be burglary, and the last one will be archaeology for mystery and knowledge. And as you go from 8 to 12, you'll unlock new harder steps. Now, this will not be as fun for some people because you'll have to do them at the same time. Remember, don't focus on a single activity because it will take you forever to upgrade everything to 12 that way. Especially if you're in the end game like me, because I have a feeling, you know, when they updated the game, yeah, it might be harder to do these things in the end game rather than, you know, start fresh. But I haven't collected any of my experience for the pathways. So if you complete one of these steps, you'll be rewarded with unique items and a title. For example, completing the 4th step of Ordeal of Legends, which means you are level 12 max, you'll obtain the heroic title, which can be changed in your banner, as you can see over here. Which grants units a 4% damage bonus for the current battle each time one of them uses action points. Now this can be interpreted in a lot of ways, but it says it grants them 4% damage each time, so that might mean it's additive. So basically if you have, I don't know, let's say 3 rounds and you use, I don't know, skill points 10 times, that will be 40% extra damage. So it can add up depending on how your setup is for your mercenaries. And the item will be the Helmet of Legends, which Warn applies fairly to all adjacent enemies. Keep in mind that certain helmets can be dismantled. You get an item which you can apply to another helmet then, and that will apply the effect to the other helmet. You get a stat from the better helmet, but you can use... I'm not sure if you can dismantle legendary items like the Helmet of Legends, but we'll see. It's definitely going to be very useful for a tank type character, and then you can shoot all of the people with frailty. I think frailty is less damage, but again, it's just an example. I like it. So there will be a total of 25 items and titles. Wow, that's a lot of... wait. Items and titles. So no, it's 12 and 12. I guess the last one will be... I'm not sure what will be the last one. Should it be items or titles? Both. Okay, so once you complete the fifth and the last stage of an activity, will reach the end of the path. Yeah, okay, so I guess you'll get an item and the title. That makes sense, progression-wise. So now we'll go over all of these pathways. Again, some people might not like them because, for example, the Ordeal of Legends is an ultimate arena where you'll fight bosses from every region. So that probably means, yeah, you will fight more bosses. That's multiple. So let's say the Ordeal of Legends must be completed in a single fight. When a boss is defeated, another takes their place immediately. Each new boss will come with a new arena rule that adds to the previous one. So it's basically like doing a normal arena, but except enemies will have boss fights. And also same audience requirements. So it's more or less the same game mechanic, but it will be a lot more interesting. Now I really hope they don't make us use Inspector Files. I really hope they don't make us use a certain number of troops. I hope it stays at 4. You shouldn't be able to use more than 4 troops in this arena. So there are 4 leagues comprised of 3 bosses each. So 4 leagues with 3 bosses each. For the 5th fight, a boss to rule them all will make its appearance. Again, it's probably not going to be as flashy as they say, but it will definitely be the hardest fights in the game with these arenas, which a lot of people might not be able to complete, because keep in mind, the way your characters or your mercenaries get super strong is getting more level ups than you normally think it's possible by, doing other activities or just by getting super rare gear, legendary gear or helmets and so on. Now the trade routes, what are the trade routes? Well, this one is a lot more interesting because they don't want to do minigames, and that's what I like. You can build paved trade routes to connect all major cities, granting you several advantages. Your walking speed between the connected cities will be increased. I'm not sure how much, but probably to be considerable. So if you don't want to use the fast travel option, you can just go from city to city to make money. Which is one of the things I miss, because using fast travel is not really that fun, is it? And it does require a lot of resources anyway. Once two trading posts are connected, it will no longer cost money to transfer resources from one chest to the other one. They're still tax merchandise. So that basically is a great addition, because you'll be able to pull up all of your equipment, all of your stuff from one place to the other. Basically, you'll be able to have a lot more control over your items. It will become a lot easier to obtain resources from all of the connected regions thanks to the peddlers. The peddlers will be in the region. So for example, like they say, every region will offer you a certain material. So that means if you build a road between Yostel and Marheim and another one between Marheim and Garusa, you can actually buy snow iris in the middle of the marshlands. A roaming peddler will also appear on the roads for more resource availability. So this has a dual purpose, but the main purpose I think it will be to give the player easier access to materials like the cloth or the wood. Like they say over here, the snow irises. You'll basically be crafting a lot easier, selling your stuff a lot easier, and also it's a lot of utility overall. I like this a lot. Of course, it might be expensive. Now the burglary ones. And this is the fun part, and I think a lot of people will hate this because lockpicking has been a major problem of the game. People just hate it, but I love it. I love it. So we will have mysterious caves scattered across the land waiting to be pillaged. And you'll have to do basically a mini puzzle. I'll not get into details because I really want to do them. But each of them will have a unique treasure. Informants will trust you with the enigmatic keys. Again, let's not go into that. It's going to be a lot of hardships for you. So the room will be filled with chests, and each of them will contain a treasure. Some contain keys and clues, others are booby-trapped. Yeah, and they'll become much harder. And if you make too much noise, guards will heal you and a fight will ensue. That will not be fun. Archaeology. We're discovering a new way to unearth ancient artifacts. So this is going to be a little bit more again on the annoying side. So this is a mini game. So as you can see, the first two ones are not mini games, but this one will be mini games. The fragments of a journal from the time of the ancients have been found. So basically you have to find these pieces of history, and then you can track them and uncover items, and those items can grant you bonuses. These objects can be placed in your camps and grant bonuses to adjacent companions. Basically, you find the page of the journal, you decipher it like you decipher normal runes, go to that place, use a new tool, the magnetic pendulum, and then you can find the location of the treasure, the extra craft challenges. So, What is that? They're basically giving you an option when you play the game, so you can choose something that will make the progression of the paths easier if you start a new game, which is, again, I'm not sure I like the idea of starting a new game. So the destiny choice you make when starting your game unlocks an additional path challenge, so that if you have an additional path challenge, it will mean you'll level up the path faster. So for example, if you choose to be a very, I don't know, be focused on crime, you'll get an extra challenge in the crime, which will allow you to level up the pathway faster. So that's a very interesting one, but I'm not sure. Like I said, this will be only for new games. So I wish they could have done this a little sooner. I don't know. Probably the full experience will be available to us next year when they release the next DLC. So this is fun. I like it. Now the camp and troop management. So troop name and titles, you can change the names, you can do more stuff with them, not very important. Companion interactions are the one I'm more interested in, as we have a new interface over here. Yeah, I don't like, the interactions are not something I really like. Good friends can share a drink and talk about life together. That will further improve the relationship, and each of them will lose a negative trait. Enemies can trade insults, which will degrade the relation faster. So you can unlock these interactions via the compendium. Again, they're just more ways for your companions to interact with each other. Let's not go into details. Recruitment ads. This is one of my favorite things, even though I don't really use them because I only have a group of 4 mercenaries. But the basic thing is that you can choose what to recruit. As you can see, it will cost you a lot of gold, but a lot of crowns, but you can basically select their weapon type, aggressive, weird spelling error, the positive trait and the negative trait. Basically, it will be like creating a new companion from the mercenary. I mean, when you start the game, you create your mercenaries, but this will also more or less be the same thing. You can choose, for example, the critical hit chance. Over here, the negative trait that reduces their weight capacity. So yeah, it's going to be a very fun one. It will be very, very useful for people who play the permanent death mode or the Iron Man mode because they can replace the losses a lot faster with the thing they want. But again, that will be just another way to consume more resources if you're playing the Iron Man mode and if you have, let's say, a party of 10 or 12 people. And that means after you pay, a character to demand will show up in the tavern. The cost of the surface depends on the number of companions you already have and the number of criteria. Oh, that's interesting. I guess if you have less, you can do this at a very cheap at a very cheap price. The contextual camp tools. So basically, they want you to assign more people to your camp tools. What? Contextual camp tools. Basically, they want you to change around your camp layout, which is not something I think I will do, but let's see. The forest will find crack trunks from which woodcutters can collect a new resource, resin. Oh, that's interesting. So basically a new workplace in your camp. In marshlands you'll find burrows which while wild game can be caught by companions or domesticated animals. I hope he's not going to be one of those animals that fights in combat. In plains you'll find derelict fragments of ancient architecture which can be studied by scholar. Again, just more experience. This will be a good addition to the game if we start from zero, but as it is right now, it doesn't change much. I play in ruins you find small artisans that can also be studied. In mountains you'll find statues of the eye, bring to them, get a chance for a random laid bull. It's interesting. In towns you'll find wells, the pure water will bring you some happiness and reduce the food needs a little. So yeah, basically your companions will have more ways to interact with each other. Interactions will be more controlled by the player. You can get new resources or new bonuses from camping and assigning companions to various tasks that will appear new, and you can also recruit easier the class you want. That was great. As for the combat, well, the metal map object is not so important. So basically, you have again more things to interact with in combat. It doesn't really say too much about them, like the damage, or I guess it does. It doesn't do a lot of damage. So in the field, you'll basically be throwing pumpkins, and that will get the enemy confused. I think I'm not sure what confused is because I don't use it a lot. They'll not be able to use skills or something like that. But I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. So in the fields it will be a lot funny to fight, a lot more funny. There are fields, I think in Virtues fields. They don't mention what if you can do something with grapes, but basically it's a farming land. Like in Artes, the bottom map, and probably Virtues. Yeah, it will be fun. The forest you throw poison axes at them. So I guess everyone can poison. Remember, this should be free activities. Oh no. Oopsie. And then you can also have marshlands where you can find abundant bombs and potholes with flammable liquids. So poison and flame in the marshlands. So this is exactly what I wanted from the game when I was playing. Now all of these arenas will be different because you can find the usual spears and bear traps probably, but also this new interaction. So the marshlands will definitely feel a lot more different, and you might want to have more protection against the fire or the poison. The plains and the mountains will find flowers which will allow you to heal during battle. It sounds like it's useless, but hey, you never know, maybe it'll be interesting. But the more interesting one, in my opinion, it will be intense. You'll find obstacles that can be destroyed when hit. So that will be interesting to see how the AI navigates around them or how your characters navigate around them. So the fighting in the city will be more interesting. In the ruins, you'll have torches that can throw and spread fire. It's more or less like the Martian. But again, it's just more interactable things in every combat, which is reminds me of original Sin 2, to be honest. Now the extreme difficulty for the people who look at. I am not sure, but I think you can now modify difficulty while playing the game. I don't think it's necessary to start. I don't know. We'll just have to see if you have to start a new game to get the extreme difficulty or not. But I think I can modify difficulty in game as well. But look at this. So the guard at level 12, again, they didn't choose a good example because the guard can be very tough to defeat anyway. So they'll have few of each, so that's 3, 6, 9, 11, 13. No, what am I doing with my math? 14 enemies. So basically this means you'll have more enemies to fight in every combat, which is a nice idea, but I hope they also increase the rewards for it. I hope, but if you look down a little bit, you'll see that they actually reduce the rewards. There's no dying status anymore. If your companion is dead, it's dead. It's either dead or alive. Which again is a big problem. I don't like to play like this because think about it. You're in the rat nest doing the rat nest and you die because of the poison or of a rat. You'll not really feel happy about this. But if you are caught by the guard and your companion is killed, yeah, instantly you'll not feel happy. Also, keep in mind that because of the new changes to the game recently or not recently this year, some enemies will be able to do 200 to 300 damage. So I was having some problems with a few enemy types that basically are faster now because they also increase the moving speed of some enemies, so they can basically reach your combat line and they can kill anyone who's not wearing heavy armor. So it will be interesting to see how they balance this. Everyone that runs away is considered dead to us anyway. What do they mean by this? Again, this is not something I like because they mean the ghost swarm. So in a ghost swarm encounter, if you attack an enemy or a ghost animal, I mean, you have a chance to accumulate a lot of fright or whatever fear that stack. And if you have 5 of them, you can run away from the combat. Even if you are winning, even if you are doing a lot of damage, you can still be frightened because you gain 5 stacks. Which means you'll be using some of the trinkets that will mitigate the fear a lot more if you're playing on this difficulty. But again, that's something I like because it's not really up to you. And if you're winning a battle, you shouldn't really have people dying anyway. No longer retreat. All prison sentences are life sentences. So be careful what you steal or what you do. Failed your job minigame? Too bad, you leave empty-handed. That's probably for chests. For wood. And it's for a lot of things, like for iron or for fishing. That would be very bad if you fail it, but I don't think that'll be super easy to fail anyway. But I like this. It should be in the main game as well. If you fail the mini game, you should lose the resources. I think this should be part of the base game, no matter the difficulty. Thieves do get something when they mess up injured. Merchants have less supplies, but you Don't really, anyway, I don't understand this one because you don't really buy a lot of supplies from merchants. And anyway, you go from town to town and you go from peddler to peddler. I don't know. This doesn't seem so important. You earn less gold, less happiness, and less everything. This is a huge modification of the game because if you earn less gold, it might not be such a big problem because you'll stockpile gold anyway. But if you get less happiness, that means less influence. That means a lot less rewards from doing the daily missions or the missions from the tavern. So it's a huge modifier, this one. Less happiness because you'll need to buy a lot more drinks. You'll need to buy a much better food. So yeah, this will modify the game in a big way. I think this should also be part of the base game. Less happiness in total, but more suspicion, more enemy, and more tired. More tired is something I don't like. So as you can see, hostile groups runs faster. Kill cost more action points. I think they mean valor points by this. So what does this mean? What does this difficulty mean? Basically, it makes the beginning of the game much harder, and it makes advancing into the mid game, end game a lot less rewarding. So what is the big problem with all of this? I think the big problem will be more enemies and less supplies because you cannot increase your troop number so easy. And also you'll be injured a lot more because you'll mess up the mini games and you'll get less rewards from the mini games. Plus, again, you don't really want to play on this. I tried to play on Iron Man and the problem was I was watching TV and I made a single mistake and one of my characters died and I was 5 hours into the game. Yeah, I don't think this will be very good. Of course, you can probably load and reload your game, but I'm not sure. Some of these things are great and they should be in the base game as well, but some of them don't really make sense. Like dying if you run away, which is more or less for the ghost fight available or some other things. Skill costing more action points is not a good one either because they modified the valor point system so it's much harder to obtain and maintain your skill points or your valor points or action points as they call them here. So I guess it's a win or miss situation. This just means you'll be using your normal attacks a lot more. I don't know, I would really like to try out this new difficulty, we'll see. And quality of life. So challenges and traps, but also quality of life. Fighting. More freedom and organized for combat and manage your units during fights. More information. You can change the order of the skills in the skill bar. That's actually a great one. Hazard environmental okay, that's not such a big change because we already knew if you would if you would cross it, it will show on your pathway. But I guess it's better that they're clearly marked now. Fight more, fight better. Keeping fights in Forsaken Village will not be easier when you have a small team. That's good because that was one of the problems. I have a very small team, four mercenaries only. Merchant caravans can be attacked by random bandits. Will be rewarded. Okay, that was one of the things that they should have introduced a long time ago. Meaning the NPCs of the land will interact between each other. The quality of gear you find on enemies can vary now. It was always low. Your blacksmith can also increase the quality of these items in the force. So I guess these things will make the game easier. So I guess extreme difficulty will be now feasible, especially if you want to start a new game with the new pathway system, the combat, the changes, the difficulty, the new path systems, the quality of life in the interactions. I guess it makes sense more or less, but I'm not sure about some of the other things. Anyway, that was just going over the basic changes and a little bit of context to them, not just reading. When the game is when the update is fully released, I'll do a video on it, but I'll have to split it again into few segments probably to explain this. Next time, bye bye.